Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Faust. We are back in the living room. It is week 2. We are back in intentions in the living room because when we start out the year, we want to be intentional. So when January comes, we think of resolutions. Well, resolutions usually bomb. By January 15th, which is roughly about a little over a month away, most people fade away. Even with virtual gym offers and Lululemon and Peloton and all the rest of the companies trying to advertise to you to go get working out, including Supernatural, which is one of my favorite apps, the majority will go over and trickle away. The motivations are high right now because people want to go change things in lives in this year. But typically within 30 to 45 days, everything trickles. So why not go over and change your mindset and rewrite the script to go to intentions compared to resolutions. Intentions is something that you continually want to do despite the year compared to resolutions. Now, you're saying to yourself, potentially, but intentions can fade away. And I intended to go do this. But when we are resolute in our intentions, and they become a value, they stick. So let's go jump into the topic of intentional in the living room, and specifically the term that was invented in the 90s by the Urban Dictionary, maybe 2000s, chillaxing. Because we've had a lot of time together due to COVID. We were able to chillax, and chillax means to chill and relax. That's the urban definition. But during that time of all this chillaxing, are you actually connecting? Because as of right now, at least the last statistics that we looked up, in April 15th of 2020, we are streaming 8 hours a day. Now, when I calculate that number to a week, it's 56 hours a week. That's insane, isn't it? We sleep 56 hours a week. We're streaming 56 hours a week. That's 112 out of 168 hours. And then if we're working 8 hours a day, we're working, we're streaming, we're sleeping. We're not getting intimacy like we talked about last week. We're not getting family time like we're talking about this week. So what if we took another 10% off the top? And again, this is only, if you watched our episode last week with intentional in the bedroom, that is only 5.6 hours a week. And that's another 5.6 hours a week, roughly about 11.2 hours total, which is roughly a little over an hour a day, maybe an hour and a half. So 45 minutes with your spouse, 45 minutes with your family. That's not that much. Let's go take that 10% of time and invest it into chillaxing with your family. One moment. So let's go dive into the options of what we thought of and also used prodad.com, which is a great website. Let me go over and give them kudos because they're the ones that inspired this up. I've already got rid of the website, didn't I? Yep, sure did. All right. Anyway, there it is. All Pro Dad. There we go. Sorry, eyes are like everywhere. You're like, I lost you. No, we're still here. So you can go to allprodad.com and go look up the article 10 tips for better family time to go more in depth in what we're talking about this with. And so they inspired this about having a chillaxing, connected family. So chillaxing option number 1 that we thought about is family night. Now, we started this right when we got here pretty much because COVID just came alive. We got here in December of 19. COVID kicked in like March something. Everybody supposedly remembers the day. It's middle of March. I honestly don't know. It was between February and March, at least in Delaware. And when that came down, we were home all the time. I was working in the garage for several months and really couldn't even go anywhere when we went back to work per se. Work was just a way to go over and cope with COVID, you know? So we still have lots of time. Winter goes by really slow over here. So we started to do a family night. Now, what consists of family night? Well, for us, it depends. We did many different versions of family night. Sometimes we did family nights with board games. Sometimes we did family nights with streaming. Sometimes we did family nights by making up games and whatnot. Sometimes we went over and spun the wheel to go over in family night. Sometimes family nights were conditional, other family nights were non-conditional. To go over and teach valuable lessons is that sometimes if you don't do the things that you're not expected to do, then you don't have that time to go over and to have that special time. So we had many different versions. There's other episodes that you can go watch when we're talking about living room episodes back in 2020. You can go look at about things that we did in the living room. So unfortunately, I can't remember the reference of the show, but if you go look at all our living room episodes, you will see several different options the way we did it. And we went an in-depth plan on how we did family night in that regard. Now we do Mondays, we do Fridays, we do Saturdays, and we still even balance that because, we as parents, we can give that 10%, but if we give 100% all the family, then our bedroom goes over and gets destroyed, and then our boardroom gets hampered. So it's a balance. So Mondays and Saturdays are primarily my day. Fridays is my wife's and grandpa's, and I usually try to be available on Friday. So we do that so we can divide and conquer, because sometimes family night might just be just the girls and me. Sometimes it might be family night is just William and me, or maybe it's all the kids and just me, or it's just my wife and grandpa. We want to maximize everybody in the family, but sometimes the energy is not there. So one version of chillaxing option is family night. When's the last time you did one? Option number 2, helping with chores. Kids go over and like to do things typically together. My daughter initially tried to spend $10 to get help on doing dishes. So if she's going to spend $10 of her stimulus to go and get my other daughter to do it, even though she already paid her, so she went negative, why not go over and power that connection of chillaxing by expediting and helping with chores? They usually have more fun together, projects are better together, especially when working shoulder to shoulder, and you can go over and connect with that child or children going over and doing that together. I wouldn't recommend that every single time because they do have to learn those lessons, but put that in your quiver that certain days that you might just see that if your family is not chillaxing, maybe you need to go step up and help with chores to go over and do that. Especially as they get older, they do need to take more responsibility, but sometimes you give that lending hand, you go show them grace, you show them mercy, and then you have a better chillaxing connection with your family. Option number 3, we did this all in 2020 and we're rebooting this in 2021, and it actually just reminded me, so I'm ordering my calendar. So if you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay, go ask, did you get your calendar? I'd love to go have that friendly reminder. Tag me in there wherever you watch this from, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Pedopolo, wherever you're at, just tag that. But national holidays, and I'm not talking about the ones that are like Martin Luther King Day and 4th of July. Everybody in America shuts down for that and supposedly starts chillaxing with their family in that particular regard. But do you go have your own national holidays that you go and celebrate? There is a calendar that you can go and buy, and it has a holiday for every single day. They have really great animated cartoons. I'll post it on Facebook and the rest of the social media once I find it. But we did this last year, and each kid got to choose 2 months. And in those 2 months, they got to choose 2 days. And as long as they gave me a 2-week notice, we went over and did those holidays. So I'm going to order it tonight so I can make sure that they have that buffer. So January is getting off a little stumbly because I looked for weeks and couldn't find it in a store. Try to be COVID safe, but sometimes you can't find things. But we're going to order it online. And this time around, now that my father-in-law's moved in, everybody's going to get the 2 months. And then I'm just going to choose 4 days throughout the year because mathematically speaking, I'm eliminated. So, see what your family can go over and handle. Maybe it's only one national holiday a month that you go over and celebrate. You get the kids go over and decide, and let the parents go over and decide. And then they learn how to connect with one another for the different days they go value and celebrate. And you find a lot about your kids on what days they go over and choose. So grab yourself a calendar, go over and do the national holidays. I'll tell you what calendar I go over and post. I'll put that in the feed when this goes over and goes from live to replay. So chillaxing option number 4, special time with one. My two daughters start asking this. Actually, my one daughter, Faith, always asks for special time. She's more acts of quality time, not acts of service, quality time in the sense of that. It seems to be quality time with a specific thing of small. Now, my daughter Hope's trying to jump on tomorrow, and we're going to go do that. And I'm going to do something different. I'm going to get a popcorn that day. She's not anticipating. I said, no, we're going to do popcorn. I'm going to choose it out of my grace and my love to give to her, which is, our faith, it's his. But to go over and do that on a regular basis, sometimes let them prompt it so they learn to do that. Others, you go grab that special time. I did that a couple weeks ago. I grabbed William, I grabbed Grandpa, we did special time, and that it wasn't special time one-on-one, but it was special time with the guys. Sometimes you do that in the house, divide the guys and the girls, or sometimes it's just dads with daughters or different things, but special time in those little moments, even if it's going over and taking an errand and leveraging the time, say, hey, I had to go get air for the tire, so I got them both food. So leverage that time to go connect and to go over and talk and let them talk about his or her favorite thing in that particular garden. As they get older, we're going to get into the next techniques in a couple of seconds on what do you do when they're older, because the teen years are creeping up. I got one in another about a year or so, and then the other ones are just going to be. So, chillaxing option number 5, late night cheesecake. Have you ever gone over and watched the old show Golden Girls? So, if you're 25 to 35, you don't know what I'm talking about. So go over and Google Golden Girls and Google late night cheesecake with that. If you're 35 and above, you've probably seen the show and you know what I'm talking about. Golden Girls was a show in the 90s about like 4 ladies ranging between their 60s and 80s living in Florida. And they just did the craziest things for being old. But a lot of times when they had emotional issues, either with boyfriends or husbands or ex-husbands or whatever, or they were just stressed out or whatever, they had late night cheesecake. Well, you don't have to wait until those moments to have late night cheesecake or a late night dessert. Why not go over and take one of those nights that you're binge watching anyway and wake up one of the kids. Obviously, if they're super young, you don't want to do late night cheesecake. Usually about 8, my recommendation from 8 and above, so they can handle the next day and they're not going to be like, but go over and have that time with them. Just like, hey, maybe it's after family night, or maybe it's when they all go to bed. You go like 15 minutes later and you call one out and then you say, hey, come hang out with me. You have a special carne ice cream or cheesecake or dessert or maybe some milk or even cookies or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be cheesecake. And go over and leverage that time to go over and connect. Now, I'm not a foodie, but I know people go over and connect with food. So maybe it's another way to do it is that sometimes I take them on a drive and I'll go get them a special cookie or whatever, and to go over and do that chillaxing time. Most of the world connects with food. So even if you're like me, you might need to go over and connect with that late night cheesecake. And if not, you don't understand the reference still, watch Golden Girls. All you have to do is watch like a couple episodes. You'll see it eventually. Most of the time it's usually at night, but they sometimes do it all day long. So maybe it's afternoon cheesecake. So you don't have to go and wait until it's late night and like, and again, if it's, you can't go out because of curfew, order the cheesecake. Come on, we still have contactless delivery. All right, chillaxing option number 6, dinner time. Most people go miss dinner time. 40% of families from this article, from 10 tips to a better family time at allprodad.com, that before COVID, 40% of the time, dads were not involved at dinner and not involved in general. And actually, 40% of kids went to bed at night with no father, which is even more scary. But we're talking about the family that's together right now. But dinner time. I went over and started doing recordings. So if you're watching this and you're like, it's live, it's actually not. It's recorded. It's gone through Restream. It will be broadcast out. Now, I will go over and answer the questions as they get instant message in. But during that dinner time, no, I typically don't. But I'll answer them right after. Or if dinner time got shifted like to 5:30, then, I'll answer because they're working on chores after that. So dinner time is key to go over and connect and reconnect. Let each of the family to go over and to speak and to go share. And maybe one of the options that my daughter loves to do is ask a crazy question around the table. You can bring it from a faith base, you can bring it from a religious base, you can bring it from a humor base, maybe just a curious space, wherever it goes over and is. that goes over and engages the family. Maybe it's a lesson that maybe you as dad or you as mom go over and teach at the table so they can go learn and grow. Because right now in the virtual space in the schools, the kids are just absorbing information. Are they really learning and growing? In my house, I don't see it. Maybe in your house it's better, but the thing is that the lessons that connect the most is through the people that they're connected the most. I still remember a bunch of lessons from my father, the ones that he taught actively and the ones that he taught passively. So why not be active and go over and connect during dinner time? And if you're going to share those lessons, the best time is to do it during the dinner table. Again, eating, I don't know why. We think better when we do those things. Chillaxing option number 7, a puppet show. This is probably for the younger kids. If they're teens, probably not going to work so well unless you have some money tied for it to do something funny. But it's going over and doing an interactive activity to re-engage the mind, to re-engage the creativity, and to re-engage the soul a little bit. And sometimes I put a little money on the table, because if they're not in the mood, just for funsies, and whoever does it the best and creative, So we grab their stuffed animals, we hide behind the couch. Each of them go do their own version of a show. Sometimes we record it, sometimes it goes on Facebook. And then I do my version, which they usually like better because I'm more impromptu and everything else. And I guess I have a lot more references, and I watched a lot of 80s and 90s TV. So go do a puppet show to go over and to connect, because building memories is chillaxing, chilling and relaxing. So puppet show. Chillaxing option number 8, and this is my hardest one for me to go over and apply. I thought of this as going, and I'm like, well, teachers got to go live it out. So chillaxing option number 8 is Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite. In this particular regard, it doesn't mean the specific games. It means where your kids are connecting, you go over and connect. So that, ironically, these are all the games where my kids go over and connect. Is that all three of my daughters play Roblox. My son plays Minecraft. Trinity just started Fortnite. They already have a subscription. Your kids already have a subscription, and the best way to go over and do that is to go over and connect with them in that regard. It doesn't have to be that particular game. Population 1 is an example to go over and to connect in one of those games. You can go over and do all types of games, but the kids that go and playing video games together are meeting other people that are playing video games together, and they're getting influenced by those kids. So why not connect where you can to go over and learn it? Even if it's nothing else, if you don't go over and play it, listen to them when they're having those conversations. Actually engage in them having those conversations. Debate them in those conversations. At least they know that you're actively listening. And sometimes them, especially my son more than my daughters in this, if you're sitting there just watching them and letting them to go over into and you're listening and you're asking questions and you're engaged, that shows that you do that. Like, my son gets excited if I give him a 15-minute or 30-minute timer to go over and talk about it. And I just sit there and I listen. I check my clock occasionally, but to be respectful, I just put a timer on so I know when it's going to go off. Sometimes it feels forever, but keep engaged. It's the same thing when you were dating. Your kids want your attention just as much as you wanted the attention from your spouse when you went over and dating. Now, just because you think it's boring and just because they might not know how to pay attention doesn't mean that you don't go give them attention that they go over and deserve. So chillaxing option number 8. Chillaxing option number 9 is outside time. We are not getting enough outside time. It's funny, at least in our house. Maybe in your house it's different. Maybe your kids are more outdoor kids, but if your kids are the Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, get some outside time. They might begrudgingly go over and fight you initially, but once you get them outside, they usually do pretty well in that regard. The younger kids, a lot easier. Older kids, yes, COVID risk and everything else, social distance, space and whatnot, but to be honest, is the kids really getting infected? No. It's us as adults primarily. We need to learn those types of things. Our immune systems are not as strong. I'm not condoning just putting your kids out everywhere and just pick nose and everything else, but we need to get that outside time. And they're going to have to learn to balance out, because if we continue to stay in this and not be intentional, and we don't have a balance of either totally hoard or totally go out, that's why our numbers keep breaking out. But this is bigger than COVID. This is bigger than pandemic. This is going overall, keeping the family interconnected together, and also going over empowering them to be fruitful mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. So outside time on a regular basis. And a lot of times it's better to be the example than to go over and just say it, because if you just go over and say it as they get older, they don't do it. You start doing it, they'll go and do it. Like every time I go outside, my son follows me. But if I tell him to go outside, most likely he doesn't. So, a couple more. Chillaxing option number 10, life and faith time. So no matter if you have a religious background or not, it's good to go share life, philosophy, religion, faith, those type of topics with your family, to really get to know your family and where they go and sit at. Maybe you do it by meditation. Maybe you do it by a Bible study. Maybe you do it by like an app or whatnot. Like I signed up for mytribe.com. It's supposed to be interactive Bible stories for kids and adults. It's free for 30 days. It's $10 a week after that. I think it's a little high in price, but I'm going to try it out. It looked pretty cool. There was one about going over and saying our kid toolbox that we take on, like, mocking and all these other types of things. And if we don't learn how to actually take our kid toolbox and get an adult toolbox of emotions and responses, then we're going to bring that into our marriage. And I thought that was really cool, and it was really impactful. So if you're a person that likes to go over and have that, you want to have that time in your life and you don't want to go think about it, go check out mytribe.com. That's a good go over resource. Family Life Ministries is another resource. I don't know any yet from other views, but maybe there's like kids versions of like psychology or philosophy or spiritual stuff that you can go over and research in there. And there's so many apps nowadays. There's no one I'm going to say works more or works better or faster or cheaper and whatnot, because there's just so many out there and it's based on you. So why not go over, engage that, and then you can embrace that in the family time. We're planning to start doing that Fridays, to do the life and faith time on Fridays. Chillaxing option number 11, surprise vacation day. We're already in COVID. The majority of us can't go over and do major vacations, so we have tons of vacation, especially as military veterans and first responders. I meet so many people that are in the GS system or active duty. Even the civilian world does the same thing. You save, you leave too much. You have this vacation, you save, and the majority of the time you don't use it. And then it's usually the time that you went over and weren't chillaxing on a regular basis with your family. Either sickness happens, not saying COVID, but other sicknesses in life, and that's when we use that vacation. And it's just not worth it, because a lot of times you get the sick time anyway. So I'd rather go over and donate my sick time or personal leave to you, so you can, in that season, if that happens to you, then you not to chillax with your family and actually cause yourself sickness. So surprise vacation days, you don't go tell them, you say that you have off, and boom, set and done, Especially with virtual school, just call them in, and most schools give you 10 days off unexcused. Leverage it, Obviously, if your kid is past that point or you've already exhausted that, it might be wise to go make up the work and get approval from the principal, but most of the time, they're going to be okay with that. I mean, even some of our kids were at that point, like, oh, danger, legal zone. We said this is what we're doing, we still got approved. So, chillaxing option number 12, VRBO, Airbnb Camping, just get out of town. Hotels are not being filled. They're really not. Hotels are not being filled. Hotels are getting about 12% occupancy. The last I went over and looked, VRBOs are really super cheap. Airbnb is on a thread. Camping and everything else, you're probably saying to yourself, it's not safe and everything else. Most people are following those sanitization rules most of the time. Even pre-COVID, you went in there, and every place I went to for business or pleasure, I never saw the person. Only if I wanted to see the person, if the person was interactive. You got the keys or got the electronic thing, you checked in, you got someplace different, you're able just to be somewhere different, to go over and chillax. Usually the places are moderate priced. The biggest part is the fees and the convenience, but the daily rate's usually pretty well. A lot of times you could, either put half up front and half later, everything or not. Airbnb Camping Depends on where you're at. Some places might not be warm enough for camping, but just get out of town. And usually when you're doing the outdoor thing, especially in the winter, nobody's going outdoors anyway. So unless those crazy people, so why not leverage the time to go over and do that? So you are intentional for this year. Now, maybe you won't do it in January. You wait until March, April, May because, standard American, got to take vacation from June to September. Just so you know, when you take the standard vacation and you take the unsurprised vacation day, you're spending 10 to 40% more in your vacation time. You take it off on a Tuesday, you can save 10 to 40% or more. So why not leverage the time during the week? I try to do that as much as possible. You may be not getting as much vacation days, but the thing is I'm getting the most effective vacation days, fiscally and also emotionally and everything else. It's great coming back to work for one day and then you off, for the weekend. So I leverage that. Because at the end of the day, we all want to be connected. I don't care who you are, outgoing, reserved, mom, dad, kids, everything else. We all want to be connected. We all have that longing. But specifically, as us parents that are in the living room, it is our jobs as parents to do I had to put the tutu, that's awesome. It is our jobs as parents to chillax. So our kids have this in their toolbox when they leave the room. They will eventually leave the living room. They will go into their own living room eventually. They will go into their own boardroom. They will go into their own bedroom. They will find their own spouse. And if they don't know how to do that because they didn't catch the value from you, then it's going to take them a legacy of time to go over and to get taught the value. We set our foundations as humans from the time we're in our first living room. So take the advantage of us being parents to learn it ourselves, even if it's difficult, and go over and we can pass that down into the next legacy for the living room. So again, we always go over and have a superhero challenge every single episode for War Hero to Superhero, and our superhero challenge is always unique as much as possible. And if you have better superhero challenges, bring it to us because we want to contextualize to you. Our superhero challenge to you today is to share your favorite family chillaxing, and I want you to use the hashtag chillaxing, Facebook, YouTube, Pedopolo, wherever you go watching this, and as we go and grow, share your favorite family chillaxing time in the comments below. This is always a conversation. This is always a dialogue. No matter if this is a recorded episode or a live episode, we want to go over and help you to go over and thrive. If you're not thriving in the bedroom, especially in the living room as we're talking about week, and you don't know how to go be intentional in the living room, you're having difficulty going over and connecting with your kids, please contact us. We give 20 minutes free to every military veteran first responder. Facebook is the best way to go over and contact us. You can also contact us on Instagram and on LinkedIn and on Twitch and everything else. But if you want the fastest result, connect with us on Facebook. So we haven't forgotten about you. Even if you contacted us before, we will regularly check on you. I know I need to check on another after this episode to see how that person is doing. So go over and chillax. And if you're struggling with chillaxing, please go over and contact us. And we want to thank you for going over and joining and watching or listening each and every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we hope that we can go over and connect with you soon. And we love to thank our sponsors, which you'll be hearing in a moment.
Millions of men and women have served this great country. However, over 40,000 veterans sleep on the streets every night. 20 veterans commit suicide on any given day. Veterans have been left without medical services while they suffer from mental illness and addiction. They are dying alone. Join Armory Dog and the Veterans Project to help serve this forgotten community of heroes. Veterans is a place for our men and women who have served our great country, giving them a place to stay and rehabilitate in a safe and positive environment. Please help support the Veterans Project so that these men and women can get back on their feet and find their purpose for living. The Veterans Project will house 10,000 veterans, getting them off the streets, into society, and utilizing their skills as they once used to serve our great country. Veterans Not Forgotten.